Good morning, everyone. I'm Christiana Saji, and your International Student Advisor, and we are here today. Some of you are not in Canada, and so for you in Canada, good morning. You who are not in Canada, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are. We today are going to be welcoming Karen, who you have met before, and she's going to be doing a presentation on tips and resources on finding a place to live, which is very important. So I hope you are already on your journey to finding a place because you're coming soon, and we are really looking forward to seeing you on campus, but we want you to have a place to stay, right? Being in Peterborough or Lindsay, we want you to be comfortable, to be happy where you are. So over to you, Karen. Thank you so much for being here today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm always excited to be able to do a presentation on housing. I say I could talk for hours and hours about housing, and it's not a lie. I really could. So I will be mindful of time today. And this is sort of touching base on a few things and tips and tricks and resources. At the end of the presentation, you will see some contact information. So please feel free to reach out to me with your questions, concerns around off-campus housing, and I'll do my best to be able to put you in the right direction and to be able to support you. Perfect. Next slide, please. Ah, Chris, we're such a good team. Perfect. So Fleming College respectfully acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional territory of Mississauga of the Anishinaabe. Oral history teaches us that Mississauga shared the land with the Oda and Huron nations before colonial contact. The Mississauga are the traditional people of North Shore of Lake Ontario and its tributaries. This has been Mississauga territory since time immemorial. We are grateful for the opportunity to work, live, and learn here and the relationships that Fleming continues to build and works to maintain in a respectful and reciprocal way. We also recognize the contributions of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples born in shaping and strengthening this community and country as a whole. This recognition is connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our Fleming community. Fleming College is committed to fortifying relationships with Indigenous communities while embedding intellectual and cultural knowledge into curriculum, activities, and systems. Thank you. So moving forward into the presentation, we would first of all always love to say we are really excited that you are going to be coming to Fleming College, whether it be Peterborough, Lindsay. We're really excited that you are on this journey, and we are here to support you. So please reach out. To the folks that you're seeing, our faces, you have a face that you can connect with. So when you arrive, please feel free to connect with us. I will sort of embarrass the International Student Services Department. They are amazing, and they will be your support. They're amazing humans that work in that department. So please feel free to connect with them as a resource and support. Okay. So I just wanted to say that this, session is really for general information only. So I'm not providing some legal advice or anything like that. Just as we move later on into some of the slides, there is some sort of information, but it's not legal advice. So just wanted to sort of say that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here we are. I would suggest for you to go to the off-campus housing at Fleming College website if you have not already. On this website, and there it is, and we can put it in the chat. On this website, we have a really robust content information on there from everything that I'm talking about today and even more. So this is a really great starting point for you to get used to sort of what housing looks like and what our campus communities look like. It empowers you, gives you knowledge about the rental world in Canada and what that looks like. So please visit off-campus housing at Fleming College if you haven't already to really start your housing search and journey. Perfect. Next slide, please. So this is somewhat what it's going to look like. So we have our off-campus student housing guides. This is also a great starting point. So we have one for each of our campus communities. So take a look at your specific one. It has a lot of information about the community that you're going to be moving to, where the campus is. And of course, it has information and tips and resources on renting and how to find housing. So this is just a really quick, short guide just to quickly take a look. We've got links in there, resources, links to transportation. We talk about recycling days, garbage days, all the things that you need to know or should know when you live off campus and what you're responsible for. So this is a great starting point as well. So really, I encourage for you to connect to go directly to our off-campus housing website. Okay, so often people will just sort of go right into going online and looking through the rentals. And that's not a bad thing. It's good to sort of see what is out there, price points and whatnot. But there is a little bit of legwork that you can do to make it easier for you to have a better transition, to make you find housing and be more successful to find housing. So first thing is determine your budget, determine your needs, and then you can sort of get started into going online and connecting with landlords. So we're going to sort of delve into each topic a little bit. Next slide, please. So we ask for you to create an honest budget. So what does that mean? It means we need for you to look at the amount of money that you're bringing and arriving with, and for you to sort of create what your expenses are. So you want to look at the money coming in and the money that you actually have to play with and to work with, and what your expenses will be. So some expenses, obviously, your number one thing would be rent. You want to make sure that you have enough money to pay your rent every month. If you don't pay your rent every month, then you can't, you're not able to continue to stay. There's a process, but essentially, if you don't pay your rent, then you're not really able to stay in the rental unit. You potentially could pay utilities, so that could be your heat and your hydro. Perhaps you're budgeting for a cell phone, and you want to budget for groceries, food as well. What you need to do is also consider what the prices are in our community. So for rent, you want to look at what we call the market rent, and that's the going rent. So if you're online and you're searching and you see, such and such place for $800 per month, that's the amount of rent per month. It's not really negotiable with the landlord. I don't recommend reaching out to a landlord to try to negotiate a better price. For a landlord, they've set that price for a reason. That's what they want. So they will stick to that, and then you've sort of closed that door because they don't feel that maybe you're serious or maybe you're not able to afford it. So it's really important to be able to create that honest budget in reference to what the reality is in terms of pricing in our campus community. The landlord will also ask you for proof of what your income is. Students have in the past provided them with proof that they are a Fleming College student so that they are aware that they are students. And then you can provide some income information. A landlord just wants to know that you're really going to be a good tenant, you're going to treat the property nicely, and you're going to be able to pay their rent on time every single month. We have amazing landlords in our campus community, but you know, a lot of landlords do treat this as a business. So just keep that in mind as well as you're going through and creating your budget and looking through the listings. Next slide, please. So just for an idea for you to understand, and once you sort of are starting your housing search, you will see that prices for a rental unit, they can range. So I sort of have a bit of an average that if you're renting a room in a shared unit, so it's a room and you're sharing, you know, living space with other people. So one room could go for about $650 to $900. It could go up. So I usually say start to budget at the very least for $650 per month. Usually a room for rent includes your heat and your hydro. So you're not paying an extra cost every month, but that is something to be aware of. And you can ask that question to the landlord. When you look through the lease, you can see what is in that lease. A lease is, we'll get into that a little bit later, but it is good to read through the lease and to understand it, not just sign off on it. You want to know what you're signing because it is a legal contract. So please read through that. If you're looking for more of a self-contained unit, it could be, you know, $1,000 to $1,400 for a one-bedroom self-contained unit. So you would have your own bedroom, your own kitchen, your own living space, your own bathroom. But as you get into more of those self-contained units, you're going to need to consider that there's usually extra costs associated with that. So it's usually you're going to be paying for the utilities. So you have to pay your rent every month, budgeting we're talking about. So budget a rent per month, plus your heat, plus your hydro, sometimes your internet as well. So if you are thinking of moving with a large group of people, so let's say right now you have got 4 friends and you're looking for, you know, maybe a 3 or a 4 bedroom unit, that will be much pricier and you will likely have to pay heat and hydro on top of whatever that monthly rent is. So just be aware of that. And the heat and the hydro aren't sort of like your monthly rent. So monthly rent is a stable, agreed upon amount that you will be paying every month. Your heat and your hydro are based on the usage. So that bill will fluctuate. That bill will go up, will be much higher sometimes for price point, or it could be lower depending on, you know, your own usage of the heat and the hydro. So just think about that. Again, we're just talking about planning and budgeting before you delve into connecting with the landlord. So perfect. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's lots of things to consider. We're talking about what your wants and your needs are. What are you looking for? Let's create a list of some of the things that you want. Perhaps you want to be, you know, close to the campus. Maybe you want to be close to a grocery store. Those are wants. And then on this side over here, you have your needs. Maybe you need to be close to a bus stop. Maybe you need to have laundry on site. You know, there's 2 different things to think about. And when it comes to your wants and your needs, what I think that you need to consider is if you're not finding the right rental place for you, because of you're looking solely at something that you really, really want, you might want to sort of come back to the lists that you've created, and you might have to maybe change on what your wants and your needs are. So you might have to be like, okay, you know what? I am willing to maybe look a little bit further away. Maybe I don't need to walk to the school. The transportation, system seems to be okay for me. Um, and then you can broaden your housing search. Then that might open up some more doors for you. So just really think about what your wants and your needs are and be realistic. You might want an apartment that is only $300 per month, and that's not the most realistic thing to think. So um, you have to also think of what is sort of going on in your campus community, and then kind of try to match this with your wants and your needs. But please don't get too focused if you're having a really difficult time finding housing. Again, just because you're looking for something so specific, maybe take a step back, look at your list, maybe see if there's some compromises that you can come up with, and then that can help broaden your housing search, and you might find something that just fits you perfect. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're still in preparation mode here. So we've talked about your budgets. You're going to kind of create a wants and a needs, list, knowing that you can make compromises if that's something that you're willing to do. So now you want to actually gather up all of your information before you even connect with landlords. Um, you're going to find when you start calling landlords, they will ask you to complete an application, and that's just basic information about yourself. You're just applying for the rental unit. I would like to take this moment to just quickly talk about, I have heard of some students who have said, during the application process, the landlord is asking me to pay money for the application. You shouldn't have to pay money just to complete the application. So we're hearing $150 to complete the application. You'll complete the application, you'll pay your $150, and you will never hear from that person again. So just please be aware of that. Let's get back to what you need for to really delve into the housing search portion of this. So the landlord will ask you for identification, references, co-signers or guarantors, and income information. So identification, that's the easy piece. You can also show them your Fleming College, that you've been accepted to Fleming College. References, why landlords ask for references is because they'd like to talk to past landlords to see what type of a tenant you are. Maybe you've never rented before. Have communication with the landlord when you're completing the application. You can let them know, I'm sorry, I've never rented before. I'm really excited to really start this housing journey. While I don't have landlord references, I can provide you with other references, so character references. Or references if, even if you have like a job somewhere, just basically stating, references are to be a good thing, to be positive things said about you. So if you're able to gather that information up even before you arrive, that would be great. Co-signers and guarantors. So basically that is a landlord looking to have on the lease that if you are not able to pay your monthly rent, you will have someone, a co-signer or guarantor, who would be able to pay that rent. Not everybody has a co-signer or a guarantor, whether you're domestic or international. That shouldn't be sort of hopefully this won't be a barrier for you if you don't have one. There are sort of ways around it. Again, the landlord really wants to know that you're able to pay your rent every month. So, you know, just maybe another option might be to say, I'm sorry, I don't have a guarantor right now, but I can show you, you know, my cell phone bill, and you can see that I'm paying every month and keeping up with these monthly payments. That's sort of a bit of a workaround in case you don't have a cosigner or a guarantor. And then some landlords will say, you don't have a cosigner or a guarantor. Okay, sorry. You know, I'm going to rent to somebody who has access to a guarantor. So just maybe thinking in terms of that way, again, if you don't have a guarantor or cosigner, you know, think of different ways around to show the landlord that you are responsible in terms of paying the rent. And then they'll want to see your income information. So certainly your landlord does not need access to your bank account at all. But you can show them, you know, if some sort of income information, whatever that looks like, whatever you're comfortable with. But again, they don't need to have access to your banking information. Again, landlords want to make sure that you're able to take care of their unit. You're going to be a good tenant and you can pay the rent on time. So those are things to prep for before you start your housing search. And again, just to touch base, before you start your housing search, some things to be aware of so that you can avoid rental scams. So this website that is up right now, it's from Settlement.org. It is an amazing website. They have a lot of information in general about renting in Ontario. So if you're new to Ontario and a new renter, this is a great website for very you know, specific questions and general questions. So it's worth to hop on that website, but more specifically, how to avoid a rental scam. So some signs, warning signs, red flags of a rental scam. The landlord only requires the payment for rent, for your last month's rent or first month's rent, in cash. So let's say you arrive and the landlord's, no, I'm sorry, I only deal in cash. That's a bit of a red flag because you don't necessarily have any documentation to show that you have made the payment. If you are doing anything in cash, the minute you hand someone cash, you need to get a receipt from that person stating what it is for. I don't recommend doing anything in cash. E-transfers, things like that are probably your best bet because you're creating a paper trail. If you're online and you're looking and the rental unit all of a sudden is, you know, popping out to you because it is a lot cheaper than all of the other rental units, that could be a bit of a rental scam as well. The landlord might not be available to personally show you the rental unit. That's a bit of a red flag. The unit is posted on multiple websites with a lot of different contact information. That's a red flag. I always recommend when you see a rental unit, go to Google. Google's your friend. Google the contact or the landlord, Google the address, and see what pops up. If there's multiple listings for the same unit with different people's names attached to it, that's a red flag. Or the landlord asks for a large amount of money to rent or to apply or to even apply for the rental unit. So that goes back to the application piece. When I mean red flag, what I mean is there's potential, it's not 100% guaranteed, but there's potential that what could happen is you could transfer money. You may think that you've done everything, signed a lease, done everything right, and then you don't even have a rental unit. So they've taken the money and then they sort of disappear. And so you are left with having spent money on nothing. So please do your due diligence. Please go to this website. Again, it's a really, really good website. It talks about, again, those red flags, how to avoid a rental scam. Even before you start your housing search, please just take a little quick read through this. It will give you knowledge and empower you, so that you can make a really good housing decision and connect with a good landlord. Next slide, please. Guys, we did it. Okay, we've prepped. So now we're ready to start our housing search. So there's a couple of things that you can think of. Again, we're going to go back to the off-campus housing website. It is there. We have a Find Housing tab. So the link that you're seeing at the bottom of this slide is a direct link to the Find Housing tab. There you will find a lot of different sort of rental websites. One place that I encourage for you to start with is placesforstudents.com. So this is a website. We do have a partnership with them. Landlords on this website only want to rent to students. So it's just a good starting point. It's a good place for you to see, what rent is going for, sort of what's included in rents. It's a good starting point. I like this website as well because it shows you the location of the rental unit and the location of where the school is, and provides you with some distance information, whether you're walking, driving, or bus. That's very helpful. If you find something on a different website, you can still do that on your own. You can go to, I use Google Maps, and then you can plug in, the location of the rental unit and where the school is, and it can also provide you with that information. So there are lots of different websites. With Places for Students, we have a little more control over that. So if a student does come to us and say, Karen, this unit, it's a rental scam, and here is why, ABCD, and there's documentation to go along with that. We can do sort of an internal investigation, and if we find that yes, in fact, it is a rental that is a sort of a rental scam, we have the ability to take that off Places for Students so that nobody else can see it. We don't have control over the internet, so your websites like Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, those do have more of the rental scams, which is why I really need for you to go check that other website out before you even start your housing search, so that you know. But those are some other options as well. Once you can log onto your dashboard, there's also a community section on the dashboard, and sometimes students will put their postings up there, like a room for rent, living with 4 other students. So that's another sort of option for you to look at. It's Fleming students who are putting the posts up, looking for other Fleming students to move into the rental unit or to take their rental unit over. So those are some good places to start for the rental websites. Next slide, please. There's also a Fleming rideshare program. So as you look, perhaps maybe you're looking a little bit further, in the area, maybe again, as you're planning where you want to stay, the Fleming rideshare program is kind of a neat little tool. The website is right there, just for you to think about. It's another option for transportation. And so as you're looking at your rental unit and transportation and planning everything out, we do have our local transportation bus system, but there's also the Fleming rideshare program, where it could be another Fleming student, or it could be staff or faculty who are willing to share transportation. Next slide, please. Okay, so what you're going to do after you have started and gone onto the websites, you are going to start communicating with the landlords. So, you know, I recommend, because housing is competitive in our campus communities, I recommend treating this almost like a job search or a job interview when you're connecting with the landlords. You know, being, I say professional, but, you know, providing, you know, a good email address, make sure it's an appropriate email address. So that's a, you know, first starting point, and look at, you know, how you're communicating in an email with a landlord. You know, say, hello, my name is Karen. You know, I saw your listing up on such and such website. Is it still available? I'm really interested in it. Maybe you have some questions. So rather than sort of just sending a quick like, want to rent your apartment, maybe sort of, you know, create a different sort of communication around that in an email. If you do go to our off-campus housing website, we do have some little scripts on there that can help you with that as well as a phone conversation too. So again, our off-campus housing website has a lot of information to help you on your housing journey. What you're going to want to do is you need to set up an appointment to go in and see the rental unit. And this is important on a lot of different levels. So one, you want to be able to go in and see the unit. You want to see the condition of the unit. It gives you an opportunity to meet with a landlord. You get to see the outside of the unit, the location of the unit, and you actually get to go in the unit, which generally means and sort of can take away some of those rental scam fears that you might have. It's really important to go in and see the unit. If you are not able to do that, which I understand, you know, if you haven't arrived in Canada, this is definitely a bit of a barrier. You can ask for the landlord to do a virtual walkthrough of the rental unit with you, so that you can see, you can go in as if you're there, you can ask the questions, and you can view the condition of the rental unit, and you can, you know, see if it's something that is right for you. Then you're going to want to then you're going to want to complete a rental application. So this is, again, just general information, and this is where it's going to come in handy. You've done all of this prep work for all of the resources, your income, your references, and you're going to have that all ready to go. And why this is so important during the time of when you're completing an application is landlords, it's so quick. It's so quick. And landlords are getting a lot of requests, a lot of people completing the rental application. They will look at someone's application when it's completed, when it's full. That means the questions are answered on the application and all of the documents they're requesting will be attached with that application. That's where the prep work will come in handy, because if you have everything all done and ready to go and you can just send that right to the landlord, it doesn't give someone else an opportunity to come in who already has everything. Let's say maybe you don't have your references, your income information isn't all sorted out. Someone else can come in, complete that application, have all of their documentation, and then the landlord could offer that unit to them first. So again, really prepping and looking at all of this. It's all connected. So just really, you know, try to do the prep work before, which I know is kind of, you know, a bit of a pain, but it will pay off. It will give you a bit of an advantage. Next slide, please. I told you guys I could talk for hours about housing. Okay. So in Ontario, we have a standard lease agreement when you're renting a rental unit. So this is, there's a link right up there, right to the standard lease. Leases are important. Leases are important for tenants and leases are important for landlords. So it will provide you with your rights and responsibilities as the landlord and as the tenant. And what it should include your monthly rent. Important to have that in writing, right? Because the landlord can't just, once you've rented a place, let's say 3 months down the road, they can't be like, you know what, I think that I'd like for you to pay an extra $100 a month. When you have a lease in place, there's documentation, it's a contract. You can't just go in and change that. So that's important. So it should have your monthly rent, when your rent is due, what the conditions are for canceling your lease. It should have the landlord's contact information. So if anything happens in the rental unit, let's say that there's a leak or something like that, you need to know who to contact to be able to support you through that. So all of that information should be in the lease. Again, there's the link and you can take a look at the lease in detail and see sort of what that looks like before you even get handed one from a landlord. Next slide, please. I'll just really touch really a little bit on this. There is something called the Residential Tenancies Act. And what that is it's basic landlord and tenant law. So it protects landlords and it protects tenants. It is a provincial law. There is a website where you can go look on what your tenant rights and responsibilities are. And it's just important to give that a quick look before you start to rent. And then depending on your rental unit, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You might fall under the Residential Tenancies Act or you might not, and those mean two different things. So let's go to the next slide, and that might give us a little more detailed information about that. So this is in general, again, not legal advice. Everyone's situation is different. So generally, you're not covered by the Residential Tenancies Act if you live in the hospital or if you're up at student residence here. If you share a kitchen or a bathroom with the landlord or a landlord's close family members, or if you're in seasonal or sort of temporary living accommodations, that could be like a hotel or Airbnb. You're covered under the Residential Tenancies Act under the market rentals, including rooming houses sometimes. If you do not share living space with the owner of the unit or a close family member. So what does it mean to be covered and not covered? To be covered means, again, you fall under that Residential Tenancies Act, and there's certain laws that the landlord has to take, and there's certain laws that you have to follow and the landlord has to follow for rentals. If you're not covered, you don't fall under the Residential Tenancies Act, so you have very little renter rights. And just a really quick scenario to help understand this a little bit. Let's say I own the rental unit. I'm living in the rental unit and I'd like to rent you a room. We're living together, we're sharing kitchen and a bathroom, and maybe I don't, for whatever reason, I'm having even a bad day and I'm upset, and it could be something very silly. I can ask for you to leave the rental unit because we're not getting along. It's my home. I'm going to ask you to leave. Essentially, you do have to leave. I would give you a date and you would have to leave. If you are covered under the Residential Tenancies Act, and that scenario would be very different. So I have a house, I'm living somewhere off-site, I'm not sharing any living space with you, you've rented my rental unit, I talk to you on the phone, you say something or I say something where we're not getting along, I can't just ask you to leave the rental unit. I, as a landlord, have certain rules that I have to follow in order to get you to leave the rental unit. So it's just a really good idea to understand before you even move into a rental unit if you're covered under the Residential Tenancies Act or not, so that you can understand what your rights and responsibilities are as a tenant. There's a link at the bottom. This is a helpful link, and this will help you in general try to determine if you know kind of a living situation that you're going to be moving into. It can help you determine where you fall under the Residential Tenancies Act or where you don't. Next slide, please. Here's all the links that are in the website or that have been in the presentation as well. There is so much more that we could cover. I know that I am mindful of time. I want us to be able to, have a bit of a conversation. If you have any questions, now is a great time to put them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I will get back to you. You can certainly also email me. But here's all of the links that were in the presentation, which it looks like they've already been put in the chat. So please copy and paste them. They are really great, important links and will really help you with your housing journey. And I think one more slide has the contact information. Maybe? Yay, perfect. So my phone number is up there. The email address is up there for the off-campus housing office, OCH at Fleming College. And then of course we have our website for off-campus housing, which again has a lot of information. So I know I went through that really quickly. I talk fast, so I apologize. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to be able to support and help you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Wow, lots
I
of
know.
information, eh?
Sorry.
Yes,
It's overwhelming, and
it's helpful, right?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's very helpful. And your tips on what to watch for before you rent, those are great,
Mhm.
right? Because sometimes you're not thinking about all those details. And thank you so much for sharing and for always doing these sessions for our international students. You have, as I say, a well of knowledge, right? That's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so guys, put your questions on the chat if you have any. We will post the recordings if you have to review this presentation at some point. I'm very grateful that you are here, that you're supporting the work we're doing for you, the information we're putting together for you, so that you are getting all your stuff ready to come to Canada. Or if you're here, you're looking for housing, you already have a lot of information that you can rely on and get a good rental unit there for you. I don't see any questions so far.
Yeah.
I'm
Have
just going to
many
stop the
people,
presentation for a sec.
sorry. Have many people who are attending today, if you feel comfortable, have you found housing? If you have found housing, feel free to put a Y for yes. If you have not found housing, feel free to put no, N for no, just for us to get a sense as to kind of where people are with their housing. So a couple people. Yeah. Yeah. Housing can be, a challenge to secure domestic and international students. One thing that I didn't mention, which I usually do, if you have not secured housing before you have arrived, or as you're going through our budgeting and you're thinking about, the amount of rent per month, it might be a really good idea if you have not secured housing before you have arrived to budget, to create, to have a little extra pot of money to help you with your temporary housing. That way you have less stress. You're not going to be worried about having to borrow money that you have allocated for your monthly rent to go towards temporary housing. So I'm going to make that sound really easy. But if that's something that you're, able to consider as you're budgeting and as you're planning before you arrive, to have just sort of that, I guess it'd be like an emergency pot of money, if you would, for things that pop up. So just something to think about. So again, the presentation has a lot of information. So if you are looking for off-campus housing, there's a 2-bedroom apartment. There's lots of information on our off-campus housing website. Please take a look at the resources that are provided on our off-campus housing website under the Find Housing tab. Again, Places for Students is a great place to start. They have rooms for rent, but they also have, those larger rental units like a 2-bedroom apartment. Also on our Find Housing tab, there is a great link to property management companies. Property management companies, you know, they manage the larger rental units. So maybe that might be another option for you to consider as you're looking through for your housing search. How much rent can I expect to pay for a private room? Great question. And that can fluctuate. So I usually say budget for about $650, $700 to start with. And then that can go up. It depends what you're looking for. It depends on what's available. You know, really start to, again, prepare and budget and do all of those things before so that you can find, you know, a private room that meets your needs as well.
And while we wait for more questions, I just want to remind everybody that there are 2 more sessions today, and I put it previously what they are. So we're going to have a session at 10:30 is Meet Your Peer Mentor. So peer mentors are students just like you, and they are from an upper semester, and they are going to help you. It's good to know a peer mentor because when you don't know things, you can go to them besides your friends as well. And then there is the student panel with students from all around the world who are currently here at Fleming, who are going to give you tips and talk about their experience in Canada and also at Fleming College. So that starts at 11:15 today. If you have missed any of the sessions yesterday, we posted already the session recordings on our website. The only session you won't have that recording is for the SIN number session. We cannot record that session, but all the sessions are recorded. However, I'd like to thank you for being here today because you know what? It's so important that you're here asking the questions, that you're present. It's very hard to watch all the sessions, the number of sessions we have throughout the entire week. You're not going to do it. I just know it. So it's important to be here in person. This way you're watching, you're receiving the information that you need. A lot of students who do not receive this information and try to watch the recordings later, they end up forgetting and they do not watch. And by the end of the semester, they come to our office and say, oh, I didn't know. And then we cannot fix as well as we would like to help you to fix the situation. So I ask that if you know other students who are not watching the sessions, who are just sitting at home, text them, right? Send them a WhatsApp message and say, hey, come on and come watch the sessions. They are important. It's important that you watch them all. Okay. Yes. Any student, yes, that's great. I can see that there are some of you there, and thank you so much for coming. This is very special to me. The sessions were put together for you, and my team is here to support you as a family. As I mentioned it yesterday, we are your family in Canada. We want you to succeed and be happy always, right?
Again, international department is amazing.
Thank you, Karen. You always do that. You always say that we are.
You are. I've seen it. I have seen it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I might throw this over to the international team here. Look at me. If they would like to, it looks like access. Maybe it looks like the 3-day stay. How does one do that in a motel?
So Sia is going to talk about it.
Perfect.
Yes.
I don't think you can access the 3-day stay at residence. So we do have the 3-day stay program at a local motel, but you would need to book the service at least 5 days prior to your arrival. So it can be done through the iSend app. You need to submit all your mandatory forms, and it will be for around $150, and it will be charged to your student account, but the booking will need to be made at least 5 days in advance prior to traveling.
Thank you, Sia.
Thank you.
So what about Severn Court residents and their lease agreement? So Severn Court is not affiliated with Fleming College. They are their own rental unit and it is through a private landlord. So you would need to connect directly with Severn Court. They do have their own lease agreement. So you would want to take a look at that, read through that, and kind of go from there. I do have a link here that I will just throw up in the chat, and you can connect directly with them. I'm looking up their website, and they have all of the information on there that you would need to apply, and you can also connect with them. I'm huge on communication. I think it's really important. Questions are great. So please feel free to reach out to them as well if you have any questions at all before you move in. Moving is a big deal, right? You want to make sure that you get the right place for yourself. And we want you to have a healthy living environment as well. It goes beyond sort of studies. It's good for your mental health. So just, you know, questions are good. If there's any other housing questions, you can throw them up here. There's a question, Monday classes, online or offline? Oh, Chris, you're muted.
Thank you, Karen. It happens all the time, right? So for all of you who do not know about your classes, make sure that you are downloading the handbook and going to your student portal, checking your timetable. There will be a session on a tour on how to find about your classes, what they are, where they are, etc. But for now, if you want to log into your account and go to your timetable, you will click on your timetable and see where your classes are. They are going to be in person. So I suggest you be on campus on Monday. Right. Don't forget that you also have the program orientation. We have a networking day. I'll put those dates there for you right now. Remember, the program orientation is very important. And you're going to be, if you want to, ask questions about your classes, because you may have some classes online, virtual, but your classes are supposed to be in person. So there you go.
Can I just make, Chris, you sort of just having that conversation made me sort of think of something that I think is a little important before we wrap up here. So there is no transportation between our Peterborough campus and our Lindsay campus. So I just, you know, you can't walk. I mean, I suppose you could walk, but it would take a really long time. I don't know. There's nowhere to walk. Let's not do that. Let's not go there.
I tried the Trans-Canada, remember? Yes, no.
Let's forget that. But
I wouldn't do that.
so it's in a drive, in a car, it's about 40 minutes one way. So it's, you know, as you're looking for housing, you know, if possible, it's important to live within your campus community. So please, you know, if you're looking for housing and your main campus is in Lindsay and you're just like, oh, I'm going to stay in Peterborough and figure it out, that's going to put a lot of stress on you. You're going to have to figure it out every single day, morning, every time your classes are. So just think about that there really is no transportation at all between Peterborough and Lindsay. So.
And if I can just add to this as well, for the joke about walking, I did a quick Google. It's 8.5 hours to walk from campus to
8.5 hours? Oh my God.
8.5. So I would not recommend walking. Another thing to quickly mention is that Google Maps is your friend. And if you do plan on living outside of your campus community, not only try to figure out how far away it is, but how will you get from A to B? So for example, Brampton is very far from both Lindsay and Peterborough, Mississauga, Toronto. You may have family or friends that live there, and it would be great if you can visit them on the weekend. But given that your classes could be at any time between Monday and Friday, we just highly recommend that you live in your campus community. And plus, just driving back and forth, it's exhausting. So you want to save that energy for your classes classes and to be able to socialize on the weekends. So Google Maps is your friend, and I highly recommend using it.
Very good point, Rebecca. Thank you.
I just wanted to answer a quick question in the chat, Chris. If on the iSIM app, and if you're trying to book the shuttle or the free stay service, and if it's giving you a message, I'm assuming you're trying to book the service under 5 days of your arrival. So let's say if you're arriving sometime this weekend, like let's say if you're arriving on the 27th, then it's under the 5 days basically. So we recommend that you email us at international@flemingcollege.ca and we can help you make the booking if you're coming in this weekend and if you're trying to get the hotel or the shuttle service or both, basically.
Yeah, and just remember to follow instructions on the registration. If you haven't followed the instructions to register, obviously you wouldn't have a timetable. So make sure that you're following the directions to register, and then you will see your timetable.
And I don't know if maybe Sia, if you can comment on it with your background in admissions, can somebody change their timetable? What's the message on that?
If you're in a program that's very popular, then chances are the other section that you're trying to move into might not have space. So there's a chance that that is not a possibility. It will also depend if it's open for first semester students. And if it is, then I recommend once you're here, you can try and talk to the folks here at the registrar's office. But if it's a very popular program and if you're trying to move classes around, there needs to be a spot for you in the other class. So if there isn't a spot available, fortunately, it's not possible to change your timetable.
Thank you, Sia.
Thank you.
All right, so there are some questions about timetable. We are going to do a tour of the portal for you. So why don't you attend that session and understand a little bit more how to see those times and understand your timetable and your student portal. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock, and I'd like to thank Karen for being here, for answering questions from my team, for always supporting in the background for the important questions the students are asking us. Thank you for joining us today, wherever you are, and hopefully not too late to attend the other sessions. Thank you so much. I'll see you at 10:30, right? Okay, see ya.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye.